the #1 movie in America was called Zombie Takeout, and that's all it was for 90 minutes. It won 8 Oscars that year, including Best Screenplay.
What's up? Welcome to episode 192 of
Zombie Takeout.
the B-Movie and Cult Movie Podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we have some listeners submitted from Roberto Suarez from Trailer Clash. He commented on the trailer for this week's movie on Google+, said, I found it more ambitious than funny. Looking forward to your take. I agree with Roberto. We'll get to more of that in the review proper, and I'll actually be referring to that comment in the review proper.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in agreement with that as well, really.
But before we get to that review, we've got some news. First story from nerdbastards.com. Guess which Del Toro flick Paul Williams wants to make a musical? Speaking to the press after the Grammys, Paul Williams, who basically wrote the soundtrack for the entire 70s with pop classics like Rainy Days and Monday and an old-fashioned love song, as well as the score for the Muppet movie, said, quote, I'm writing a musical based on Pan's Labyrinth with Guillermo del Toro. And my whole relationship with Guillermo del Toro is based on his love for Phantom of the Paradise. I'm writing that with Gustavo Santaolalla, who's a brilliant, brilliant composer from Argentina. Phantom of the Paradise is a 1974 De Palma cult musical Williams starred in and wrote the songs for, and it's loosely based on Phantom of the Opera.
Which, of course, we have to review.
Del Toro apparently is a huge fan of it. He actually owns one of the Phantom masks used in the movie. The combination of Paul Williams and Guillermo del Toro and a Pan's Labyrinth musical. Now, if you're under 35, and I don't know if we have any listeners under 35, you may not remember Paul Williams. He was on The Love Boat and Fantasy Island a lot.
You know, I only vaguely remember, being over 35,
Long blonde hair, short guy.
Was he like... No, I'm not. I'm thinking of somebody else. Like was he like a large guy who, they wore matching suits too and shit?
Oh, no, I don't remember.
I think it's someone else.
Yeah. Very prolific songwriter, very country.
Well, yeah, I've heard old-fashioned love song, and which I think Three Dog Night did,
I think so.
Popular version.
Mm-hmm. Although he says this Gustavo Santaolalla is writing the music, so at least it won't be country, but still.
I think that'd be even stranger.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of music Santaolalla writes, but that combination just breaks my brain a little bit, especially a musical of Pan's Labyrinth.
Why not?
I just hope it's film and not stage so we can review it.
Well, I think they didn't go for stage first and then screen. Yeah.
Hopefully it does make it to film eventually.
That's the path they take.
Yeah. Unless it's the producers.
It would have to. Well, then, it did.
Well,
it went film to musical and then back to film.
But it started with a film. Anyway,
right.
Next story.
And then it'll go back to the stage.
True. Yeah.
Forever and ever.
Next story. From IO9. Day of the Triffids remake actually sounds kind of great. Deadline is reporting that Mike Newell of Dante Brasco, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, as well as Prince of Persia fame, he directed all of them,
that's famous,
will be replacing Sam Raimi as the director of Day of the Triffids. He'll be working with a script from Mama writer and Luther creator Neil Cross. The movie is centered around a mysterious comet that blinds most of the population on Earth. Those who remain are forced to battle the deadly plant monsters with poison whips and the ability to walk around on their roots.
And why could they have gotten Sam Raimi for this? This sounds like it would
sound like it's right up Raimi's alley. He might have out, like he did with Warcraft. Mike Newell, very much a chameleon. I've seen, of course, the Harry Potter movie. We reviewed Prince of Persia. He also directed Four Weddings and a Funeral.
Oh, okay.
Very competent director, but he doesn't have a clear style. He doesn't really put a stamp on it like someone like Tarantino does.
Yeah.
So that could be good. He lets the script, determine the feel of the movie.
That is all over the place though, because I mean, Prince of Persia, Four Weddings and a Funeral. I mean,
Yeah, just those two. And Dante Brasco, a mob movie.
yeah,
Now, Luther, I've only seen a few episodes, but it's brilliantly written. It's directed like a typical BBC cop show, but the writing is amazing.
it's not the story of Luther
No,
Vandross.
no, it's a cop
Okay.
show.
Okay.
So that's very, very promising. If you haven't seen Luther, I highly recommend it. It's on Netflix. So this could be very interesting. It just seems odd that Day of the Triffids is what they're remaking.
Yeah.
Because that is so 50s sci-fi. That should have been a Misty movie if it wasn't.
Right. I don't think I've seen that.
I've seen parts of it. I've seen enough to know that a remake. I don't know. I guess they can't do worse than the Day the Earth Stood Still remake. Keanu was in that.
Well, of course. It doesn't get any worse than that.
Oh. And the original Day the Earth Stood Still is a masterpiece. Another one
Yeah.
I recommend seeing if you haven't.
Yeah.
Anyway, on to this week's movie, which is from 2006, Idiocracy, and of course the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by A Pimp's Love. It's very different from that of a square.
And also brought to you by Buttfuckers. Bring the kids. All right, so we have Joe Bauer. I think that's supposed to be a take on Joe Blow.
Probably,
Could be.
yeah, I didn't put that
Could
together.
be. Average guy. Kind of, well,
Remarkably
unambitious. What's that?
Remarkably average.
Remarkably average, yes. The a saying that my father has always been fond of, Father Scotto, could we call him? No,
Okay.
that sounds like a priest.
Good.
Um,
Sounds like you're a priest.
yeah, yeah. So, a phrase my father has always been fond of, lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. He always took that to mean
Get out of the way.
to get out of the way. That was his
Yeah.
pick. And of course, he was sadly pointed out to that was supposed to shame him, but he feels no shame.
Yeah.
He was chosen for an experiment to, I think it was only supposed to be for a year, right?
Mhm.
Originally, it was to cryogenically freeze for some reason, a man and a woman for only a year.
Well, I think that's because the general who was in charge of the project had a deal with the pimp.
Well, yeah, but why? I don't know why they
How he
needed,
got away with it, I don't know. Or why he would want to praise her.
why they would need one of each gender if it's only for a year.
Well, that could be it. Maybe they just needed a man or a woman to see if there were any differences. The idea
Sure.
was to keep troops on ice so they were ready at a moment's notice.
Good point. Good point. So the experiment, of course, goes horribly awry, and they wind up waking up 500 years into the future, um, and they are just out of place.
Mhm.
The average guy has now become a genius, and he's treated differently, of course, and just the human race in general has just devolved into, I guess what they've said, a series of grunts.
Mhm.
Um,
And hillbilly.
and yeah, and hillbilly, and it doesn't look good for us. We can't feed ourselves. Our economy is just all advertising pretty much, and
The most successful film was just a guy's ass for 90 minutes that farted now and then.
so they look to this average man. Well, after incarcerating him for not having a tattoo, um, they look to him for the answers, and the president of the United States himself, like an MMA guy.
Wrestler and a porn star, actually.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. And he looks to this average man to solve all of his problems, and it doesn't take off right away, so they look to execute him, and hilarity ensues.
Yeah. Now, the reason I didn't notice the Joe Bauer, Joe Blow thing was because I was too busy being completely awestruck by how much this rips off Planet of the Apes.
Oh yeah.
It is basically Planet of the Apes, except instead of a group of pilots crashing, it's a army librarian and a prostitute being frozen. And instead of super intelligent apes, it's super unintelligent humans. And he never goes home, obviously.
Right, right. And he knows, where he is from the beginning pretty
Well,
much.
yeah, and it even had the almost had the damn you all to hell moment when he opened up the window and figured out he was in the future.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He all but said damn you all to hell.
I can't say it's a ripoff of Planet of the Apes. I mean, it's
Okay, it's an homage, you could say, a parody perhaps, but there is no question that it's almost exactly the same idea.
oh, definitely. He's taking that story and that story is talking about how wonderful mankind is and how great we are,
Right.
and this is just telling us how fucked we are.
Uh-huh. Now, that's a good segue. And getting back to Roberto's comment, more ambitious than funny, it kind of got me thinking, and I've half jokingly called this a horror film for
You're right.
years. Made me wonder if it's even intended to be funny.
Uh, right.
Maybe it's
Because,
just intended to scare the fuck out of anyone with a modicum of intelligence.
well, right. He put himself in an impossible situation here. And of course, you take it to the logical conclusion, maybe he wasn't looking for the outcome of it being a hit.
Yeah.
Because think about it, if you found any of the movie funny,
Hmm.
you were part of the problem.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So
True.
what do? I mean, all of his jokes are things that the people of the 26th century find enjoyable.
Hmm.
If you enjoy them, then you are part of that problem.
Right. I was saying before we started recording, the only thing that made me laugh was a line at the beginning before he goes forward in time that I took from my sponsor, the Pimp's Love line. Literally the only time I laughed.
I think when I caught the House of Representing sign,
Mm.
I think I think that was the one that got me.
No, no, you agreeing with me on the fact that it might not be intended as a comedy does maybe give me a little more respect for it.
It
However,
depressed the hell out of me.
well, it scared the shit out of me the first time and did the same this time. This is the second time I've seen it.
Yeah, same here.
But I also noticed some really significant flaws, even looking at it as a more serious movie.
Yeah.
The whole narrator thing, very lazy. There's a narrator who basically explains everything as the movie goes along.
A very Orson Welles type thing.
Yeah. Very clumsy, bold-faced exposition, almost as if you're reading a novel,
Yeah.
where they would have to say these things because it's not actually happening in front of you. To use the old adage, don't say it, show it. Judge said it more than he showed it.
It gave it more of an epic quality to it, I thought, though.
It kind of made it feel more like a sketch to me than a movie. Like, if
Hmm.
this was a 10-minute sketch, that would have been fine.
I think he was just trying to stay beneath the hour and a half. Because I
Maybe.
mean, if he did show us all this stuff,
True,
I
true.
I think that this would definitely have not have worked.
Hmm.
This
Oh.
I'm not even sure if this works as an hour and a half,
I
but
don't
it
think
definitely
so.
would not have worked over 2
Uh-huh.
hours.
In fact, unsure of how to market the film after disastrous test screenings,
Of course.
Fox sat on the near completed film for over a year before finally giving it an unusually small release to only 6 markets, and none of them being major markets like New York. The release was done with little to no marketing. In the New York Times, Dan Mitchell argued that Fox might be shying away from the cautionary tale about low intelligence dysgenics because the company did not want to offend either its viewers or potential advertisers portrayed negatively in the film, noting that in the film, Starbucks delivers hand jobs, and the motto of Carl's Jr. has degenerated from "Don't bother me, I'm eating" to "Fuck you, I'm eating."
And they stole one of my taglines for the cigarette company.
Uh,
It was the same one I used for winter vacation 2 weeks ago.
oh, okay.
Fuck you.
Yeah, right. Although I will say, establishing that they have no family, Rita and Joe, was a nice touch. I didn't expect it to be that thorough.
Yeah.
because it just gets rid of anybody wondering where they are.
Right, right.
Also, I think I don't remember if I said this on air or not. The Fuddruckers gag was completely predictable.
Oh, it's something that, here's the thing with this movie. He's not talking about the future. He never was talking about the
No, no, no.
future. He's talking about right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
The the president in this movie
Hmm.
very well could have been Jesse Ventura.
Hmm.
I
I
mean,
think that's exactly who he was referring to.
exactly. Ow, my balls
Funniest home videos.
at the time was America's Funniest Home Videos, but how is that not Tosh.0?
Yeah, yeah.
If you've ever sat through an episode or
I've
two of
well,
Tosh.0,
I didn't make it
it's
through an entire episode, but
it's Ow, my
yeah.
balls. And I think that's just what depressed me more. I mean, I saw this probably back in '06.
Same here.
I remember thinking it was, very funny and how uncanny that everything was, as it was then. But seeing it this many years later and thinking just how much worse we are now.
Mm.
Think about this. The same night I watched this, a congressman threatened to throw a reporter over the balcony
Yeah, yeah.
at Congress. How are we not devolving back
Yeah.
into monkeys shitting in their hands and throwing it at each other?
Yes. Very good point. Now, I saw this. It was probably in theaters when I saw that,
I
if you
think
get
I
my meaning.
saw it. Oh,
Um, and I, from that day, have always referred to it as a horror film.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like a Schindler's List.
I will say the Garbage Mountain effect looked great. I was very impressed with that.
It's probably one of the best
Yeah.
effects.
It's because this is not a high budget movie.
Right, right. I thought the battle arena scene was pretty damn funny actually with how bad the effects
Hmm.
were.
Yeah.
I think they were enjoyably bad effects. I think he gleefully, used the models.
I think so, yeah, yeah. I think he knew how little money he was gonna have, so he, played up the low budget aspect and just had fun with that and made it deliberately bad in that respect. Now, a way in which I don't think it was intentionally bad, I think it's a very well executed movie. It's well directed, but the script is kind of shit.
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
It's all message.
right,
It's a rant about, I was gonna say the future, but really it's current America.
right. He's taking the present situation and exaggerating it
Yeah.
somewhat, but not enough.
No. But it's really just a thinly veiled rant inside of a even more thinly veiled Planet of the Apes copy.
Yeah.
And personally, for me, all but two of the characters are horribly aggravating.
Well, the people in the future are all just aggravating.
It's hard to watch for that reason.
Yeah.
And Joe and Rita are not characters I would like in anything else. But they're so much less irritating than everybody else.
I kind of liked Rita, but yeah, Joe was just, he was just kind of there.
Mm.
And you liked how they brought him back down to earth as, to remind us that he isn't exactly a genius,
Right.
that he till the very end hasn't figured out that Rita is a prostitute.
That was a nice running gag.
That was about her painting.
Mm. Although Camacho did seem smarter than everybody else, or at least a little bit, or at least more articulate. Then again, maybe that's why he was president.
Out of all the future guys, he was probably the most likable,
Yeah, yeah.
which is why he was president.
Mm. I have to nitpick something now.
But
And I know nitpicking something in this movie is absurd, but if you pour water on dead plants, it's not going to do anything.
of course, to create topsoil again, if you salted the earth,
Yeah, which is what they did.
yeah, your plants aren't going to grow.
It's going to take generations for that land to be usable again. Just a little water and a few weeks is not going to do anything.
You would need to fertilize,
Yeah,
at least.
true.
They didn't even do that.
Yeah.
He just poured water on it.
And I love that Rita seems surprised that it worked.
Oh, she wasn't quite sure. Well, I wouldn't be either if that's all he did was pour water on the damn ground.
Well, that's the thing though. They never nod to the fact that that wouldn't actually work, which I guess is understandable because it's a device in the movie. They can't really nod to the fact that it's futile because it has to work for the movie to work. But I just loved that there was that little nod in that she was surprised by it.
Yeah.
Also, there was a little continuity issue
That
when,
Crocs would still be worn 500 years from now.
oh, aside from that, when Beef Supreme lit him on fire, the Joe that was on fire was wearing a white vest. When they showed him after the fire went out, he wasn't.
He actually got set on fire?
In the rehabilitation arena.
Well, yeah, I know. He was using the fire flamethrower while he was hanging.
No, before that, he lit him up. He was able to
Oh,
run
oh
it
yeah, you're right,
around
you're right.
and put the fire out. But when he was on fire, he was clearly wearing a white vest, some kind of fire retardant clothes, I guess, but
Yeah,
that the stuntman had to wear. But when they showed Joe next, he wasn't wearing it.
he was back to the orange.
Yeah, it was just a little continuity error, and I'm kind of wondering if that was intentional. Also, were we supposed to believe that the time machine was actually a thing?
I don't know. I know it. I don't think so because
Okay, then it should have been a 10-minute gag in the middle of the movie where they find it and it's a ride. Why stretch it out to the end and make it some kind of big reveal?
well, the irony was that he'd already made the decision that he was going to stay
uh
when
It turned
he
out to be a
makes
ride.
right.
But it's treated as this big reveal, like we're supposed to believe that there's this time machine, when the premise of the movie makes that impossible.
Yeah.
Unless we have one now that the military has under wraps, this movie suggests that we're just going to get stupider for the next 500 years, which means nobody's going to invent a time machine. And in that case, it's been under wraps for 500 years. It's obviously not going to work. So it just seemed odd that it was this big reveal when it should have just been a 5-minute gag, and he should have realized, okay, yeah, that wouldn't really happen. He should have realized how idiotic the whole idea was.
Well, right. He wasn't the smartest guy either.
That's a good point. I
Let's
think I
fix
made
it back.
him too much credit because of everybody else.
Right. And that's so true though. If everyone treats someone as if they were a genius,
Mhm.
you just naturally start, thinking everything that they say. I mean, it's, it happens all the time.
Right.
There's so much to faking it.
hmm Incidentally, the script was originally titled The United States of America, UHH, America, and the working title was 3001. I think Arthur C. Clarke beat them to that title. One of the 2001 series, one of the latest one, the last one I think, or one of the later ones, it's called 3001.
I thought, wasn't like Futurama around the same time?
Probably. I think so, yeah.
That was the big thing with this, that
Yeah.
Futurama and this
hmm
pretty much have the same plot almost.
Except they don't get noticeably dumber in the future. I mean, in a
Yeah.
lot of respects, it is the same. I'm curious which one happened first, because I think if it was Futurama, he borrowed a lot from that as well.
Well, yeah, definitely. If Futurama came first, he definitely
hmm
swiped a lot from it.
Yeah.
But he did this in '05, I think.
Well, it was released in '06, so probably made in '05.
Yeah. And then I think that's I see a date of 2007 on Family Guy. I mean on Futurama, but
Okay.
I think it was earlier than that.
Mhm. Okay, so this may have come first and then influenced Futurama.
I really think they were around the same time because I remember a lot of arguments.
Mhm. Yeah, possibly. Oh, and speaking of which, the idea of a dystopian society based on dysgenics is not new at all. H.G. Wells' The Time Machine postulates a devolved society of humans, as does the short story The Marching Morons, love that title, by Cyril M. Kornbluth, akin to the epsilon minus semi-morons from Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. So this idea goes back, well, Brave New World was in the late 40s. The Time Machine was 1800s. I've no idea what the Marching Morons is, but I definitely want to look into that.
Oh, Futurama 99.
Oh, wow. So way before.
Yeah,
Okay, so yeah, Judge definitely borrowed a lot from Futurama.
definitely.
So that even takes it down a little bit more.
Yeah.
One other joke, and it was a subtle joke that I actually had to read Wikipedia to get, that did make me laugh. Frito's last name, Pendejo,
Oh yeah.
is a Spanish insult which means pubic hair but conveys the sentiment as dickhead.
Yes.
The full name, and this is the part that made me laugh because I knew that part. The full name, Frito Pendejo, translates to fried dickhead. The
And if
fried part just is the what was the capper for me.
and if you notice that everybody's name has some sort of product placement in it,
Hmm.
which I've been wondering about this since there is a lot of product placement in this movie.
Yeah. How much of it was actually paid for?
Right. And how did the companies feel about how they were used in this movie?
Well, if it was paid for, then I'm sure they read a script. If it wasn't, then he may have had. I didn't see anything about legal action, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, yeah, like, Carl's Jr., Starbucks, Fuddruckers.
Particular, well, Fuddruckers or Starbucks. Um, I
Mountain
think they would
Dew.
have the biggest problem
Yeah.
because Fuddruckers, it's just twisting the name around, and it's frankly, let's be honest, what everybody thinks when they hear the name Fuddruckers.
Yes. I miss Fuddruckers. I haven't seen one of those in a long time.
First time I ever even heard the name, that of course that was the first thing that popped to mind.
Well, yeah.
So he's just, saying what we're all thinking. To use
Right.
cliche.
I found in my research for this the webcomic XKCD did about this.
Okay.
It's two people in a video store. I'll just read it right now.
Mm.
One of them saying, "Idiocracy is so true. I know, right? It used to be that that the intelligent upper classes had more children. Sadly, the recent reversal of this trend has dragged IQ scores and average education steadily downward. Depressing, huh? Yeah, except everything I just said was wrong. Huh? Wrong, false, the opposite of true. You're like the religious zealots who, burdened by their superiority with the sad duty of decrying the obvious moral decay of each new generation, and you're just as wrong. But look at how popular, more harm has been done by people panicked over societal decline than societal decline ever did. Look, all we need is a program that limits breeding to new theory. Stupid people reproduce more because the alternative is sleeping with you."
Wow.
Now, I think, I mean, yeah, a lot of people were taken aback by his use of reproduction.
Hmm.
And some people were saying that this is a racist movie, which honestly, I think if you think this is
No.
racist, that makes you racist.
Yeah, yeah.
Because his primary examples are white people, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, he has people of different races in this movie.
The only prominent African American characters are Rita, who is one of the smarter people in the film,
Yeah,
and Camacho, who of the future people is probably the smartest.
he's the leader, right?
Yeah.
Um, well, yeah, and I guess you got upgraded.
Oh, upgrade, yeah, but he's got one scene.
Yeah, well, and one after the credits.
Well, does he have one before? Oh, right, he does have this short one in the beginning. I forgot that.
Yeah.
So he's not really a prominent character. No more than random person on the street who has one line is. But the point is, there's really nothing racist about it. If anything, it's intellectual elitism,
Well,
which I
yeah.
personally have no problem with.
Right, right. I think the point is that we are uh, just losing our empathy. We're losing our curiosity.
Hmm.
We're not learning how to do things anymore. These are facts. I
Yeah.
mean, it's we're getting more technology that's doing more things for us, but forgetting how to do things on our own.
Mhm. Yes. That was a very big part of the movie too, was that the future people were basically invalids.
Right. And if you don't believe me, can you memorize phone numbers? people
Very good
without
point.
using your phone
Yeah.
anymore, because I sure as fuck cannot.
Yeah. I wasn't very good at it before I had a cell phone, and I'm horrible now. I barely know my own.
I was fantastic at it. I knew everybody's number by heart. I just knew, you know?
Mhm.
Now could not tell you.
Mhm.
I have like maybe four numbers I could do out of my head right now. No one else's though.
It would take me about 30 seconds to remember my own phone number, my cell.
I was gonna say, yeah, out of the four, two of those are my own
Yeah,
numbers.
the house number I could maybe guess at.
I could call my house, my cell phone, my wife,
Hmm.
my parents, because it's the phone number I grew up with when I was a kid. That's it.
Yeah, the house I grew up in, I can probably still remember that if I tried for 2 seconds.
But yeah, there are sometimes you get these security things that will give you different phone numbers you used to have in the past.
Mhm.
And I could not, like, I don't know what fucking phone number that was. Like, the ones where I lived on, like, Seaside or in Brick.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
And well, I was gonna say, well, in your case, it's probably different because you do a fair amount of cooking, but I don't remember the last time I used something other than the microwave to cook.
Yeah, but I make a point of cooking,
Yeah,
and
but I
and
think most people are probably in my camp.
and I sadly cannot remember how to do stuff though, still.
Hmm.
Like, I'll still have to, like, look stuff up. But yeah, it's the reality of it.
Yeah.
And it just depressed the hell out of me, this movie. And it's not like the guy in the comic strip where he's like thinking about society just going down the shitter. I was thinking about, like, what have I done myself
Mhm.
to keep any of this from happening? And the answer is nothing.
Well, that's the bit at the end that sort of is a little disingenuous because there's this big rousing speech and there's sort of a happy ending with,
Well, it's not a big rousing speech. It's like the
well, for this movie, it's a big rousing speech. And actually, I did find it oddly satisfying.
the ass needs to, who belongs to that ass and
Right.
why is he farting?
Hmm. And they do sort of suggest at the end that it's useless, but really, if this were real, Joe would have no impact on the
Yeah.
future.
Oh yeah, he would just gotten killed.
Well, no, let's just take the movie to its conclusion. Let's say they had 12 kids.
Yeah.
Still, statistically, no impact in the long run. Two people are not going to raise the average IQ any amount that would even be noticeable.
But intelligence isn't really genetic, though.
That's debatable.
I think that's the
I
the
think
problem with this.
potential is debatable. What you do
Yeah,
with it is up to you, but
exactly. I'm sure there are plenty of highly intelligent people who were, you know, children of stupid people and vice versa.
mm, it certainly can happen. But again, it's the potential for intelligence, which is what I call intelligence. Is genetic. It is something that's passed down. How you choose to use that potential is, like any other potential. It's a matter of if it's squandered or not. So people can be extremely potentially intelligent and do nothing with it, and ultimately seem very stupid.
And people can just pick their own path, too.
Well, yeah, true. It's not a matter of intelligence. It's just what you
Right.
choose to do.
But we need we need to value that curiosity, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
And we just haven't been doing that.
Hmm.
And I blame Netflix.
That's okay. We're talking about, whether or not you use the potential and the path you choose. It's a question of what you watch on Netflix. So lots of documentaries there.
Yes,
Lots
there
of
are.
great independent films.
There's also Star Trek Enterprise.
Mhm. Lots of B movies.
Yeah, shows to just, marathon.
Hmm.
Portlandia did a fucking fantastic skit of they marathon Battlestar Galactica,
Hmm.
and they like lost their jobs and their house and stuff, and then just because they did nothing but stay in their house and marathon this thing. And
But it's only good for like the first two seasons.
well, yeah, and well, then it ended, and they found, like, they looked up some writer to write an ending to it. It even had Edward James Olmos and everything. It
Nice,
was pretty funny.
nice. Yeah, if you're planning to watch the BSG reboot, anybody out there, stop after season 2
All right,
because it
now
just
we've officially gone too far now.
we're tangenting too much.
I think so. It is official. Maybe that's what
Okay.
this episode name should be called.
Well,
Tangent.
we're clearly both done with our comments on the movie
Yeah,
itself, so on to
yeah.
sequels and remakes. In August 2012, Terry Crews said he was in talks with director Judge and Fox over a possible Idiocracy spin-off featuring his President Camacho character, initially conceived as a web series. Now, this clearly went nowhere because, well, Fox wanted nothing to do with this movie to begin with.
Yeah. I think the shots he took directly at Fox
Yeah, we're part of the problem, yeah.
were part of the problem.
Fox News was the only logo he didn't change.
Yeah. And it was pretty accurate shots too.
Yeah, yeah. But also, the ending scene with the upgrade kind of suggested sequel plans. It's
I don't
really an
know.
I smell sequel moment. Because for those who haven't seen it, after the credits, another coffin opens, another, the pod they use to go into the future, and Upgrade gets out of it looking for Rita, and it's really, it's an I smell sequel moment, and maybe that was intentional, maybe that was just a little
I think it's my
poke
judge
at,
fucking around.
yeah, movies that do that.
It was pretty funny. Instead of the alien living, it's the
Mhm.
pimp is,
Yeah, in the future.
loose. Yeah.
All right, on to brains.
On to brains, and man, I've had a hard time with this.
I kind of was stuck between a couple. I agree with most of what he's saying, but it's just so clumsy and thinly veiled and unoriginal. But the execution is good. I'm gonna be generous and go 2.
I've really had a hard time with this because, well, it's really depressing.
Mm-hmm.
You go into it thinking you're getting a Mike Judge comedy, and even when you've seen it before and you come out of it, and it's just really depressing. Um, it's still, worth seeing though, and it's definitely we've definitely done worse. So I'm gonna go 3.5.
Okay. And what have we learned?
We learned that well, I think we stole what I learned. We've already covered that because Brondo,
It has electrolytes.
it has electrolytes.
And I learned why Starbucks has become so popular.
Yeah.
All right, so until next week when we'll be reviewing Osambi, get that hate mail ready. Go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. Links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We really appreciate it. You'll also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review. Gotta pad that out a little bit more after we're done here. Because it ends with Osambi at the moment. You also find the request form. If you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, please leave it on the request form. We'll get to it. And the recommendations list. For a minute there, I thought you were going to try to put it on there.
Nah, I was close to putting it on there because it's just, but no.
You can also email us, zombietakeout@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-ZTO1, or for the alphanumerically challenged, 414-368-9861. Always remember that you will always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee. And of course, until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
There you are.
People wrote books and movies that had stories, so you cared whose ass it was and why it was farting, and I believe that time can come again.
The number one movie in America was called I almost said the actual line. How long have we been doing? We've almost been doing this for 5 years. I almost said
Yeah.
the fucking line for the first time ever.
I think I've done that before.
All right, take two. We have
Pause. I'm very, very glad we go over this ahead of time because
yeah.
I just went to take a drink when you gave your sponsor. If I didn't know that was coming,
You know, we didn't actually. You didn't actually pick one. The two that I
that's
gave
true. I didn't
you.
know which one you were going with. I assumed it was that one. I guess it didn't surprise me.
I just kind of went at the last minute. Actually,
I don't know. I just saw it coming.
it just stood out more.